Hungarian Folk Tales. The Salt Princess. Once upon a time there lived an old king who had 3 beautiful daughters. The old king wanted to find husbands for his daughters before he died, but he could not decide which daughter should receive the most beautiful of his 3 kingdoms. So he decided to give his most beautiful kingdom to the daughter who loved him the most. The old king asked his daughters, and the eldest replied, "I love you, dear father, as a dove loves good grain." "What about you, child?" "I love you, dear father, as a hot summer day loves a cool breeze." "And what about you, daughter?" "I love you, dear father, like people love salt." "What do you mean, salt? You ungrateful child. Is this what I raised and loved you for all these years? Get out of here! Get out of my sight!" His daughter tried to explain that people love salt very much indeed. She sobbed and begged, but her father shunned her from his palace. The poor princess walked and walked. She was terribly sad. She walked until she reached a vast forest. There she found a large hollow tree, and she hid herself inside it. She lived by gathering delicious nuts and ripe berries from the green forest. One day, the prince from the neighbouring kingdom was out hunting when he happened to pass by. He was chasing a deer when he spotted the princess. But when she saw the prince, she hid in a hollow tree. The handsome prince soon found the tree and shouted into the hollow, "Who is in there?" But the princess refused to reply. "Who is in there? Speak up." "Speak up or I'll shoot." The terrified princess eventually appeared. She was so beautiful, but she could not stop crying. The prince was so overcome that he embraced the sad princess, sat her high on his horse, and took her home to his palace. Their wedding was so grand that even the dogs ate beef broth, and the young couple lived as happily as 2 doves. Time passed until the young king asked his bride one day, "Tell me, why did your father chase you away?" "Because I told him that I loved him like people love salt." "Why, is that all?" Then the young king had an idea and sent a letter to the old king, inviting him to come and visit. The old king came the very next day in a golden carriage. The young king led him to his grandest chamber and sat him down at the table. His servant served soup, but it had no salt in it. And the meat had no flavour either. The king ate a great deal, but was still left feeling hungry. He remained silent for a while, but eventually had to speak. "What kind of cook do you have, son? Who makes food with no salt?" "I heard you don't like salt, sire." "Who told you that?" "Why, your daughter, of course." Then the princess appeared. The king's daughter smiled at her old father, who shed tears of joy. Father and daughter embraced, and the king gave his most beautiful kingdom to his youngest daughter. And they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Pork Pudding. Once upon a time, there lived a man who had a pig. The pig grew very big and fat, so the man decided to slaughter it for food. By the time spring came, the man and his family had eaten everything but the pork pudding. One day, the man went to tend his vines while his wife and 3 daughters stayed at home to cook supper. The wife told the eldest daughter, "Go up into the attic and fetch the pork pudding, my girl, and we'll cook it for your father's supper." The eldest girl did as she was told and was about to cut the pork pudding down when it spoke to her. "What do you want? You won't eat me, because I'll eat you first." And with these words, it ate the girl up. The wife could not imagine why her daughter had not come back down with the pork pudding. So she sent the second eldest daughter up to the attic to fetch it. But the fat pork pudding ate the second daughter up as well. So the wife sent the youngest girl up to fetch the pork pudding. But the youngest daughter did no better than her sisters, and the bulging pork pudding ate her up too. The wife could not imagine what had happened to her 3 darling daughters. "Well, I shall see for myself," she said, and went up into the roof. When she saw the size of the enormous pork pudding, she was pleased. But when she tried to cut the pork pudding down, it ate her up in a single mouthful. That evening, the man returned home from his vines to find no one at home to cook his supper. There was no supper on the stove and not even a fire inside it. The man searched high and low for his wife and 3 daughters. He realized that he would go hungry, so he went up to the attic to fetch the pork pudding to eat for his supper. But when the man got up into the attic and tried to cut the round pork pudding down, it shouted at him like it had at the others. "You won't eat me, I'll eat you first." And without any ado, the pork pudding ate the man up. By now, the heavy pork pudding was so weighty that the string could no longer hold it. It fell from the beam, rolled down the ladder, onto the porch, and out into the garden. The little house was on a big hill, so the gigantic pork pudding rolled all the way down the street. The local folks were just coming back from the fields, and the massive pork pudding ate them all up. The roly-poly pork pudding met a herd of pigs at the edge of the village, being led by a swineherd eating bacon with a pocket knife. The preposterously large pork pudding ate all the pigs up, and then the swineherd too. But the pocket knife was open, and the swineherd cut his way out of the pork pudding, and everybody followed him out into the sunshine. If that pork pudding had not split as it did, my story would have never ended. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Little Walnut. Once upon a time, there lived a poor man who had so many children they were like ants in a hill. The children often went without food for 3 days in a row. They were so very poor. So their father set off to find some food for his family. He was walking in the forest when the devil met him, disguised as a man. "Where are you going, poor man?" "I'm going to find some food for my children. If I don't do something soon, they will all die of hunger." "Don't take another step. I'll give you something that, if you use it wisely, will put an end to suffering in your house. Here, take this little walnut. Give it any order you like, and it will be done without delay." "But what am I to give you in return?" "I don't want anything much. Only the thing you don't know about in your home." The poor man started thinking what it could be that he didn't know about, but he could not think of a single thing. And as times were hard, he gave his promise. The poor man arrived home with a little walnut, and his wife asked, "Have you brought food?" "We are all so very, very hungry." "Well, I didn't exactly bring food, but I did bring a peculiar nut. The man who gave it to me said that we can order it to do anything we desire, and it will be done." "Why did he give it to you?" "I'm sure he wanted something in return." "All he said was that I am to give him what I don't know about in my home in return for the nut." "Oh, you faithless fool, what have you done? You can see that I'm expecting a baby, and you didn't know about it, and now you have given it away." "It's not my fault, wife, but what is done is done." The poor man gave an order to the walnut. "Well, little nut, all of us need food, drink, and clothes. I order you to make them now." And everything the man asked for was provided, and they all sat down to eat finer food than they had ever tasted in their lives before. The poor man also wanted a larger home, and so he ordered the little walnut to build him a large brick farmhouse with green gardens, lush pastures, and fine farm animals. The poor man soon became a rich man, and his baby was born. The family were all working hard one day when 2 old men arrived and asked for shelter for the night. He was glad to help and also gave them food. when they told him why they had come. "We know that the devil is about to come and take your youngest child. We came to help you save your innocent babe. Do as we say and put a loaf of bread on your table at night and let it stay there until the following day." So the man put a loaf on the table, and everyone in the house went to sleep for the night. They were all fast asleep at midnight when the devil appeared under the window and shouted up, "Hey, master of the house, do you hear me? Do you remember your promise to me? Give it to me now. I came for that." Nobody heard his words as they were all sleeping, but instead the bread spoke up. "Stay and sit easy outside. Just wait as I waited. Be patient and suffer as I patiently waited. I was sown in the soil in the autumn and sat there all winter, as you must wait now. When spring came, I started to grow, and I waited to grow tall, as you must wait now too. When the time of harvest came, I was cut with a scythe and gathered in bunches, but I had to suffer, as you must now suffer too. Then I was put on a cart, pushed along a road, and into the village and waited, as you must wait now too. I was stamped on and painfully cracked. I had to suffer, as you must now suffer too. I was shoveled into a barn where they beat me with sticks. They beat me hard, and I suffered, as you must suffer now too. Then I was put in a sack, taken to the mill, and poured between two heavy stones and ground to powder. I had to suffer, as you must suffer now too. I was taken home and put into a bowl with salt and water. Then they punched me with their fists, kneaded me and tortured me. Then, greatest of all pains in the world, they pushed me into a fiery oven. I had to suffer all of this, so you must suffer now too. They baked me and burned me before I was brought here, and cut me with a sharp metal knife. I had to be patient and suffer and wait. Now you must be patient and suffer and wait now too. The devil was sad to hear the sound of the cockerel heralding the dawn of the next day. He had no power over men in the bright light of morning, so he ran back to his distant home, and the farmer's family kept their youngest son. The farmer thanked the old men for saving his baby boy from the devil's grasp. And that poor farmer still lives a wealthy life, unless they have lost their little walnut.